list?
Yep, I did.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. And this morning I am joined by Tam Veilleux of the Energy Almanac, as I unbelievably know it's time for us to talk about July. It's crazy, right?
I
July.
t How does it the end of June already?
I don't know. I have no idea. But welcome everybody to the show. And this morning we are going to run down all of the different things that have to do with the month of July. So it's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let us share with you. Oh, she's got, what do you got? Tea? Green tea?
Spearmint water.
Ooh.
Excuse
Mm,
me, peppermint water.
yeah. I have a whole jug of peppermint tea, or it's probably spearmint tea that I made green tea the other day, and then I just pick fresh mint out of the garden and put it
Oh,
in
I
there.
love it.
It's the best part about summer is
It
mint.
is. It's the best part.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Tam, here we are.
Again, here
Another
we
month.
go.
Another
Another
month.
month. I spent all morning looking at it and like saying, "Wow, we got some interesting stuff to talk about today." It's like, oh, where do we
Yeah.
begin? Where do we begin?
Well, like we usually do, we kind of begin at the beginning.
We
But
begin
I
at the
kind of
beginning.
want you to recap for me, how was your June? Just because June wasn't, terrible. It had a lot of things going on in terms of planets changing, the nodes shifting and that kind of thing. Nodes in human design shifting, not in astrology.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, how did you do with that?
Um, my my personal June was interesting. I mean, I reached out. I mean, confusion in the air, and blaming sort of Neptune. And then I've had friends who have said the same thing, that they felt really confused during June. And I thought, huh. I wonder if that's like the beginning of Neptune's retrograde that people were like already beginning to feel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be indeed because Neptune, of course, being a far further out planet, would spend longer period of time in the slowing down phase
Right,
and probably sit at a degree of its eventual retrograde, ticking down the seconds and
right.
the minutes, if it as it were. Um, but I also felt like the month of June brought me to some kind of precipice,
Really
but didn't really let me go over that precipice
interesting.
or go backwards.
Hmm.
So it was sort of an uncomfortable feeling of being stuck, but not really being stuck, if you know what I mean. Like, had I just not the energy yet to take that next step, that plunge, or was it not the right timing? And of course, I'm always going to default to that. Perhaps if it was meant to happen, things would happen, right? That's just how it
Mm,
is.
mm.
But interesting month, I think, for June. And now that we're headed to July, we have, a couple of big things on the horizon that will pretty much dominate the landscape of the month,
Mhm.
peppered in with some other things. So if we jump right in, July 1st is Saturday.
Yep.
What is today? Wednesday?
Today's
3 more days.
Wednesday.
3 more days, 2 more full days of June, and then we're into July. And we kind of jump into July with some interesting energies of the Sun and Mercury both in a sextile to Jupiter. Um, and to me, the first day of the month kind of, even though it's arbitrary, right? The calendar is fairly arbitrary, but because it's our point of reference or our frame of reference where we start the month, the first day of the month often can set the tone. And what we have is a tone that's a bit like um, finding some positive developments perhaps in our lives, getting maybe some optimism. Not that people haven't been fairly optimistic, but that there might be something good for us to look forward to. What do you think?
Well, I was looking at it as more of like a day of like sort of more insight, more intuitive information coming in that day, being that Cancer is deeply involved, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's how I saw it. I hadn't really thought about the first day of the month setting the tone, but that makes good sense as well. I mean, I hadn't thought of
yeah,
it, to be honest.
yeah. It's like when you dive into the water, that first, you know, feeling of the water is, setting the tone for the swim.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't change or, get
Right.
different,
Yeah.
but it does set the tone. And I kind of like this one with the moon in Sagittarius that day. It gives us that feeling of freedom and adventure, of something beyond. And Jupiter, being the one that's in the sextile with both Mercury and the Sun, is the ruler of Sagittarius. So we get
Mhm.
this feeling that there's a bigger picture that maybe we
Mhm.
can connect with. I don't know,
Mhm.
it feels positive to me.
Well, I was gonna say, and then Sag, for me, I always think Sag, and I always think like optimism and or hopefulness with that
Hmm.
too. So hey, I'll take that if that's coming for July.
But it's also,
Hey.
getting back to the natural world, being
Yeah,
out in the, into nature, and it's summertime. So a lot of people spend more time outdoors
absolutely.
during this period of time. And then the next day, the second, we end up with Venus in a square to Uranus.
Right.
Not sure if that's good or bad. Sometimes it's very shocking in
It's
terms of our relationships, what can happen during this kind of transit.
well,
Um,
but then also like I think I'm thinking about money. Uranus and Taurus, Venus is money and relationships, and what maybe a little revelation, maybe a little shake up
Maybe a
in the
change in
area.
fortune.
Yeah, yeah, change in fortune, sure.
Yep,
Why
that's
not? And again, if you're, me, I'm always bringing up the geopolitical landscape. There's a lot going on economically right now, particularly in the Middle East. There's a revaluation of currency going on, and maybe this is the day they will finally have their big win.
mm,
That would be, that would make sense for them around then, because they're literally scheduled before the end of June to have that happen. That would be a celebratory and interesting thing for them on that day.
for them as in the Middle East, you mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Well,
I
anybody who's involved with a revaluation,
yeah,
anyone.
yeah. And also very interesting considering this is the month that Venus is gonna turn retrograde, which is gonna
Yes,
bring all of those hidden things to the surface, hidden financial concerns or economic concerns, um, hidden things in relationships, but
absolutely.
also giving us that, the word that you said was perfect, reevaluation or
Yeah.
revaluation.
Revaluation. It's not
Right,
an
that's
evaluation, it's a revaluation. Yeah.
right. Checking the values, checking the value, checking in with your own self-worth and all of that.
Yeah.
And are you worthy to move forward? And of course, the first 2 days of the month are taking us headlong to the full moon on July 3rd. I think that's across all time zones. Let me take a look at that. July
Uh,
3rd, yeah, even universal time,
yeah.
it is 11:39 in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's going to be fairly early, and this is a Capricorn full moon.
Yeah. I found like so many interesting transits on that moon. Like, there was a super busy and a lot going on with it. There's something like I've lost the numbers. There's something like uh 11 Earth planets and Earth, not planets, but interesting motions with Earth, and then a bunch with water. And I'm like, oh, Earth and water, like
Yeah,
muddy, not
yeah.
really clear.
Well, the number of planets that are in fire is the highest number.
No,
But
that's not what I saw.
yeah,
I I have one too.
do you know how to look at
I
those
pulled
grids?
one too. Interesting. Well, I guess I'll run with yours because I saw Earth and water.
Let me just look. July 3rd, 2023, 7:39 a.m. at East Coast
Let's
time. So
see. That's
4:39
Earth,
for my time zone. The
Earth,
sun is
Earth.
at 11 degrees 19 minutes. Moon is 11 degrees 19 minutes of Capricorn. Does that look like what it says
Um,
in yours?
Hold on a second. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And those are in water. And there's
What
fire.
no, the moon is
And
in Earth. The
yep,
sun is in water.
the moon is in Earth. The
Yeah.
sun is in water. Oh my God. Yeah. 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 Okay. I agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we really have then is not a lot of planets in air.
Right.
So interesting because that gives the mind a little bit of a break, perhaps, or
Yep.
maybe it causes people to keep looking and looking for information that they can't find, or that it won't
Mm.
be apparent. Because really, the only things in air are the planet Ceres, the dwarf planet Ceres, and the part of Fortune. There's no real anchor planets in air during the full moon. So to me, it means we're letting go of the mind and all the thinking processes in favor of fire, where we have Venus, Mars, Black Moon Lilith, Pallas Athena, the ascendant of the full moon, Eris, Chiron, the midheaven of the chart. And what that all lends me to believe is it's time to follow the heart.
Oh, I see the difference in how we're doing this. You're
You
using
don't use all
all,
the ah
I don't use all of those. I'm looking at the major planets and, earth signs, Uranus, Jupiter, the north node, we have the moon, we have Pluto. So,
all in
um,
Earth. That's why you're thinking that. And water because the sun, Mercury, north or south node, Saturn, and Neptune. So we have
right.
power in 3 out of 4 of the elements.
Yeah.
The weak one, though, and in your chart, then if you don't use the part of Fortune or Ceres, it's blank
Yep.
in air. Yeah. Okay. So now that makes perfect sense, right? Not
Right.
right or wrong, but I just use these other planets because it fleshes it out a little bit more, brings the divine feminine in a little bit more,
Sure.
and the feminine energy here placed quite a bit in in the fire element. So
Mm,
creativity and self-expression and passion
mm.
and living from the heart, all of these types of things. But I always go to my Sabian symbols for the moons. I don't know what
Sure.
it is about
Yep.
them, but I
Yep.
love to do this.
Oh, let it rip. What do we have this time?
So we're going to start with the moon in Capricorn is an illustrated lecture on natural science reveals little known aspects of life.
Oh, an illustrated lecture on little known science.
An illustrated lecture on natural science reveals little known aspects of life. And immediately, what that brought up to me was some exploration sort of energy, right? Exploring the unfamiliar.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking full moon, maybe there's a revelation around what it is that you have not yet tried that would take you towards your passions. And it allows that to be a starting point, a launching point, right? Something different, something
Mm,
new. It is also, to me, exploring energy that needs to have us set aside fear in order to dive into the wonders of life. And interesting because it is a time of the year, where we're really opening our minds to seeing nature and being out more in that world. But I
mm,
also looked at the sun, and it was funny because it was the first thing I looked at, and in a full moon, I usually don't look at
mhm.
the sun. I'm just looking at the moon. But the sun really kind of crystallizes all of this. And it says, a Chinese woman nursing a baby whose aura reveals him to be the reincarnation of a great teacher. So
Oh,
this is about the revelation, full moon revelation of a latent worth or skill or idea in your experiences of life that make it worthwhile to seek the deeper meaning of the aspect. And as soon as I read that, I went, oh my gosh, that is Jupiter now at the gate 24, which is about looking for the blessings in our life experiences, not just the, oh yeah, this happened, right? And, that kind of thing, but how did it impact us? How did it create growth and all of that? So it's revelation time, so revelation and exploring. Hmm.
whoa.
You bring those
Um,
2, the sun and the moon together, those 2 words makes me think of, Christopher Columbus out on the ocean blue, right? Or
yeah, for sure.
yeah, not the damage that was done by any of those people, but just the exploring nature. How can we move beyond where we are by exploring different themes, different concepts, different choices?
So, so I'm thinking about like all of the energy almanac readers
Uh-huh.
who need a simpler version of this moon, right? What you have said all has value, and I'm thinking, how do we simplify a full moon in Capricorn with the major transits?
Step out of your old self and into a new self that's willing to explore what is possible, not just
Capricorn
stay.
representing the old traditional.
hmm But
Yep.
the old and the traditional forms the foundation,
Right.
right?
Capricorn.
But
Yeah.
Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It's
Yep.
initiating energy. So
I know.
it's willing to move,
Yep.
it's willing to change. It just has to have the plan or something that makes sense to it, the practical reason why I should stop doing what
Right.
I'm doing and do it in a different way.
Mm.
So, that's an important thing to consider. But if you're experiencing in your life the same old, you're going to keep getting the same old until you decide to choose something different, something
Right, right,
new.
right. I
And
think I
that's what
said
I
that
think is
exact language this week to a coaching client. Choose
right.
the same and get the same.
Right, exactly right. And I think, when you have a moon that's kind of crystallizing that, it tells us a lot about, because in my chart, like I'm seeing a lot of fire with the divine feminine, which is the energy of being receptive, right? Receptive to creating a space where you're acting from your heart or living from your heart. And, if you're in a place right now in your life, anybody who's listening, where you are not feeling the passion, then it's time to stop what you're doing and consider what would restore passion.
Mm,
Revalue yourself and what you're doing and your contribution to the world, because we need everybody to be living in their passion.
absolutely. Oh boy, there's a famous saying about that. Do you remember it?
Uh, no.
Uh, um, d- find what brings you joy and go do that. What we need are more people living in joy. I'll have to look up.
That's a great. If it's not correct, it's perfect.
Yeah,
Because the idea is the same here.
right.
And,
Yep.
this particular moon is also in a trine to Jupiter and in
Yes.
a trine to Uranus.
Hmm.
So we have both the ability to evolve and grow consciously in a new direction, but also maybe some surprises along the way. Maybe the surprise with Uranus there is the revelation that if you follow your heart, you're not going to die.
Right.
You won't die if you do what you love.
Exactly. In fact, you might thrive instead.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting to thrive?
Exactly.
Oh gosh. So,
Before we go further beyond that full moon,
uh-huh.
July 3rd is the birthday of a dear friend of mine. So happy birthday to Sharon Little, who is probably going to be watching this live today.
Awesome. And happy birthday to Irene Alberg, who always joins us from Sweden. It is also her birthday on July 3rd. And I
Nice.
think Christine said that it was her daughter's birthday on
Oh
July
my
3rd.
gosh. Well, there.
Yeah, and one of my husband and I's favorite friends who passed away sadly at a very young age, his birthday was July 3rd.
Wow.
What a lovely person, right? I think that somehow that day is kind of magical.
I
But,
would say so.
I wanted to stop and say good morning to everybody before we do move on.
Perfect.
Debbie Tibbetts Tubiel, good morning. Nico, he said, "Hello, ladies. Looking forward to this one. I'm drinking an Americano with cinnamon and honey.
Oh,
I,
yum.
I'm drinking white chocolate coffee with whipping cream."
You guys
Mm.
win. I'm just drinking peppermint water.
I have lots of water too, but that'll come later. It's earlier where I am, so it's coffee time still. Good morning, Julie, and good morning, Pam Zaruba and Christine. Nice to see you out there. And of course, Irene. And let's see, who did I miss here? No, Pam Zaruba. Did I say good morning to you? But if I didn't, good morning to you. Joan Durchie, good morning. She says, Happy July to all. And treat yourself. Julie, I believe her brother in law is on the 3rd. Quite a few days. And
Plenty of
now,
birthday.
how auspicious is it to have a full moon on your birthday?
I know. I was thinking about that for Sharon. I think that's really cool. I want to take just a second, Janet. This is the illustration for July, and the beautiful do this and do not and all of that. I wanted to mention for those who are wondering, the gemstones for July are fluorite and that, hold on a second. I wrote my notes all over the place today, which was really not very brilliant on my part. Oh, right here. Fluorite and aquamarine. Fluorite for balance and
Ah,
positivity in July. aquamarine for revelation. And we were just talking about revelation with that moon. So find a piece of aquamarine, hold it with you for that day to help draw forth that revelation that is coming your way. Also, interesting, Janet, you're so intuitive. Spearmint is the essential oil for the month of July. It's about expression. And we have so much Leo energy in
Mm-hmm.
July that you like naturally picked the right plant and the right oil for. You were talking about, you have a picture of spearmint water, right?
No, it's
Yeah.
tea, spearmint tea.
Spearmint tea. So spearmint essential oil for everybody who's wondering what oil might benefit them this month. So I just
I
wanted to
love
add
it.
that.
Yeah, I often forget about that, but in the energy almanac, there's also these wonderful other things besides just astrology or human design. There's the different oils, the plants, the fluorite, the gemstones, and isn't there yoga
There's
poses and
plants and herbs, there's movement. Yeah, there's all
hmm
kinds of holistic resources for all of the readers. And
yeah,
I usually at our show try to remember to say the gemstone and the oil of the month.
nice, very
Yeah.
nice. So get your. I was thinking, do I have? I know I have aquamarine sitting by me. I'm not sure about fluorite.
Well, grab one or the other. And I think really aquamarine for expression, revelation, I guess, will
Woohoo!
be super beneficial for Saturday.
Yeah. So coming back to the full moon, then it's
Yeah,
going to be a time of revelation for sure, but
revelation.
it's involving our being willing to step outside of our comfort zone, to step into passion, to step into
Yeah,
exploring energy, um, and to set aside fear, the fear
yeah,
of what's going to happen if I follow my heart, right?
yeah.
That's a lot of fear. Okay, so let's see. That week, of course, is the 4th of July in the United States.
Yes.
And that is always a big holiday and a busy holiday, lots of potential for explosions and fires.
Right. Oh my gosh. I didn't even think of it like that, but yeah, you're right.
Yep, 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 yep. Now, on Independence Day itself, on the 4th, the moon is shifting out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. So that I think lightens the mood a little bit and maybe gives us some insight into America's future. Let's see what kind of the news wheel is at that time. And really, the rest of that week is kind of quiet, except for a Mercury Uranus sextile
Right.
later in that week, which on my calendar, which shows red and green, right, and black. Black is neutral, red hot, you know,
Yeah.
to contrary, and green go, right, ease.
Hmm.
It's a red day, and I'm like, why is that a red day?
Yeah. Why? Look, I didn't feel like that should have. I feel
No,
like I want to color code that myself.
right, 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 right. And I'm never quite sure, is that like my personal astrology for the day because it's all based on our own astrology
Right.
too.
Right.
But even looking at that, maybe because the sun is square my midheaven, I don't know. But Mercury and Uranus are like the lower and higher octaves of one another,
Right.
where Mercury is ruling the lower mind, the mind, the thinking mind, the analytical mind, but Uranus ruling the mind that's above that is kind of receiving from super consciousness. So we have the opportunity for those couple of days right around there to really be bringing in some great revelations.
Revelation.
Yeah,
Revelation. Exactly.
yeah,
I actually had it kind of highlighted as a really interesting and exciting day, like to be mindful of what's coming through intuitively and maybe landing in your consciousness, right?
yeah. I think there's that, but maybe the moon because it's moving out of Aquarius and into Pisces that day, which means it's going to come into a conjunction with Saturn. It's going to oppose Mars. That maybe there's some, the revelation could maybe create some dis or unease, ill at ease feelings within people. I don't know. But, don't set yourself up for that. Just be ready for the revelation and then take whatever
Right.
action is necessary for you to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It seems super simple to me. Of course, it
That
always
what you
seems.
have that as the sixth or seventh?
I have that on the 6th.
Yep. Okay.
But it's
That's
probably
that's what I
bridging
have
both of
too.
those days too. Yeah, it
Perfect.
depends,
Perfect.
the
Perfect.
time. I didn't look up the time for that one.
Yeah.
Anything else that week that jumps out at you?
I don't know if it's the same week. I gotta look at the dates. Well, I have,
That would be the week of the 2nd through the 8th, if you're going Sunday to Saturday.
yeah, I my next thing is the 9th when we have Mercury trine Neptune, which is kind of cool. Mercury in Cancer, trine Neptune in Pisces, which will be interesting for communication and compassion and
Mm.
intuition, intuitive downloads. I just think that's going to be a spectacular day.
I really like that day too, but it also mirrors my own astrology chart as I have a Mercury Neptune um Chiron trine, grand trine in
Wow.
water. And so I look at that in a completely different way now than I used to look at how that played out. I used to
Oh.
think it was, all about funneling the wound Chiron into my Mercury experience in Cancer and my Neptune experience in Scorpio. But, it doesn't have to be that way. In this point, it feels very healing, very intuitive, finding the right path out of any conundrum or any
Mm.
challenge that I've had in my life. So I look at trines, by the way, as an ease and flow of the energy, but sometimes that ease and flow creates a laziness within us.
Sure.
I don't have to try any harder than what I'm doing because it's always happening in this really positive, good way. So here we might have to apply a little bit of oomph to being able to act on our intuition, to being
Mm.
able to, I'm going to use the word control, but it's not quite the word, but to control our thoughts and our mind and the possibility of anxiety and so forth, kind of behind the scenes that is, causing some havoc for us. And that is the day too, the sun and the moon are in a square. So,
Oh.
yeah, right. And that's the last quarter moon before the new moon. So we have a crisis of consciousness that comes up
Mm.
during that period of time. And that means we're priming ourselves for a shift in consciousness, a shift in the mind
Well,
that can
that's
then take us
interesting.
forward.
I keep thinking about the Neptune aspect and the natural tendency toward I'm going to use the word escapism,
Mm,
and what might need to what forces need to happen in order to avoid that and to I don't know. I don't know.
right. Because of the pain of your mind moving, right? Then our natural thing is anymore escapism. Get your phone, get your game, get your TV, get your Netflix, get your
Right.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sex,
can
drugs,
see
and
that,
rock and roll.
right? So avoid the escapism.
Right.
But, sometimes it's nice to consciously connect with escapism as well, where if you've been doing a lot of mindfulness work or a lot of work, on yourself, learning a lot or teaching a lot or, having a lot of mental focus, that sometimes it's kind of nice to shift out of that mental jabber, but you want to do it consciously, not just unconsciously grab the game, but,
Right.
like, okay, I'm going to take this next 30 minutes and just, you know,
And
do
therein lies
something.
the key. I mean, there are people I'm an example of it, of like productivity all day, forgetting to rest. And really
Where's
you're
the
right.
fun, right? Where's the fun in all of that? Even if you're
Right.
having fun doing the work.
But still, like, conscious escapism
Yeah,
can be smart. It's a form of self-care. But you do have to be, for people who slip into escapism easily, it's could be an interesting conundrum.
indeed, indeed. But
Yeah.
that's why we have these transits. They all give us opportunities to behave in a different way, right?
Yeah.
To make different choices. So we have that opportunity coming up. By the way, your friend Sharon Little has joined us. She says hello. And I want to say good morning to Pauline. And Sharon, I don't know if you heard us talking about your birthday. You were wished a happy birthday from everybody.
I was I was gonna say, somebody in the chat, please tell her I mentioned her name.
Yes. Oh, there she's saying, I was listening to the wrong video, wondering when Tam was joining. Oh no.
Funny.
Christine Buckingham says her two favorite crystals. So that would have
Oh,
been
nice.
aquamarine and
Nice.
fluorite for this month. Nico says, I'm a Taurus sun and Leo moon and Aquarius rising. What an
Oh,
interesting combination. Those are fixed signs.
wow.
So, Nico, time to kick yourself in the butt and move.
Right?
Move forward. Julie says, I love it. Pauline says, where are we with the US Pluto return? That is a great question. We are technically through it, aspect wise, but
But we're
like
in the
any,
early degrees.
yeah, but Pluto, by any stretch of the imagination, is never quite done with us for a while, right? So I think the American Pluto sits at like 26 or 25 of Aquarius. I'd have to look that up. So Pluto, I mean of Capricorn, and Pluto isn't going back that far. So I don't believe we're going to have to worry about the exact of that, but anytime
Pluto
you're hit,
Pluto
yep,
is at 29 degrees right now.
right
Or
now he's at
excuse me, in
29.
July. In July.
Yeah, all of the month pretty much. He's at
Yeah.
29 degrees of Capricorn, but not going back is what I mean to hit the US
Oh,
Pluto.
return. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've already gone through the
That's
three
right.
hits with that. But like any kind of Pluto transit for anybody, it takes time to see what the fallout is or how the transformation energy is going to show up in the new form.
Mm.
So I think, we're still trying. We're still trying to get through that transformation. Um, so, oh yeah, thanks, Pauline. And Sharon says, awesome. So I love being able to interact with everybody here. So,
Yes, me too.
uh, so going on into that second full week of July, the first thing that I saw was Mars and Mercury both changing signs on the
Right.
same day, but not into the same sign, right? As
Right.
Mars is leaving Leo for Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
Mercury is leaving Cancer for Leo. So we
Mm-hmm.
have kind of some jostling around
Mm-hmm.
of the inner planets, which are the ones that really affect us the most.
That will really feel we just talked about, self-care and escapism, and with Mars moving into Virgo and us bringing order to our environment and productivity and service to others, I don't see rest in the near future, just saying.
Again, I think it's going to have to be a conscious thing.
Conscious decisions, yeah.
Yeah, a conscious decision. Virgo can do things in a very organized and practical way.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it is a sign of healing with the body and so
Yep.
forth. So we again consciously can choose to take the time to work on ourselves. But I also love Mercury moving into Leo because Mercury is all about communication, Leo
Yes.
all about self-expression. So
Mm-hmm.
communicating your personal creative self or
Yeah.
your passions. It's going to be, I think, a lovely couple of weeks there.
Yep.
The only fly in the ointment, if you will, that day is that Mercury becomes opposed to Pluto. So immediately, right, is zeroed. It's actually he's actually going to be there before he actually in the opposition before he actually moves into the next sign. Because 29 Cancer would technically be across from Pluto at 29
Yep.
Capricorn. So even a day or two before, we may sense that there's some sort of transformation of the mind that must occur in order for
Mm.
us to, go on into the rest of the month. And as far as I see, that week is quiet,
Yeah, I
integrating.
don't have anything else either. I really didn't highlight much else.
Yeah, nothing else much there until we get to the new moon. So my thinking anytime we see a week like that is it's time for us to integrate.
Uh, when's the 14th? I don't know which week.
The 14th is that second full week of the
Yeah, we
month.
have
It's a
the sun
Friday.
sextile Uranus on the 14th.
Yep. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Again, like more revelation. We probably should have called July revelatory, right? I don't know. New insights, maybe. Um, and what? The sun is in Leo at that point.
No, the
Nope,
sun is still in Cancer.
not quite. Still in Cancer. So
Yeah.
maybe new insights to healing or to parenting or or to home life. I don't know. Maybe a shift in the home economy, home budget,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I did have that one circled. Worth mentioning.
Yeah, so I do think it has probably something to do with finances or money or the economy because
Yeah.
we're looking at a cycle, right? So the sun in a sextile to Uranus means that back in Taurus time of year, so April to late May, we had a sun conjunct Uranus, right? That
Hmm.
starts the new cycle
Right.
of the sun and Uranus throughout the year. So this is the next um, connection that they would make, next major connection that the two would make. So when we look at that, the possibility that the sun conjunct Uranus had a very big impact financially or economically, could have represented a change in your values,
Mm.
the energy to shift out of places that you've been sort of sitting at
Hmm.
without moving. And then we get to the sextile energy, and now we can see that maybe the sun in Cancer with the possibility of growth and through nurturing,
Nurturing.
growing, nurturing, Uranus in Taurus, the shifting sands of financial abundance or of abundance in general, of
Sure.
your self worth, of your value. So, yeah, I think it's a good day all the way around. But sometimes people don't like it when the light bulb turns on brightly on
Good
them.
call. That's true. It can be scary. It can instigate fear for sure.
Yeah, right? It can instigate fear or a feeling of self-loathing or a like, I blew it or I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
any good at this or what have you. So we'll need to be very aware of how the mind is taking you down that path, or is
Mm.
it taking you down that path? And does it cause you to let go of what your dreams and your goals are?
Mm.
Or does it shift you into, kind of a more stubborn, I'm going to go this direction. I'm going
Mm.
to take this and I'm going to, keep going in that direction. So it should be an interesting day for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to know where it is in your chart, again, you're looking at the sun being in Cancer. So we're looking at the Cancer part of your chart and the Taurus part of your chart. So,
Mm.
because a lot of times, at least I always coach my listeners to have their astrology chart with them when the
Yeah.
show is on so they can see visually where these
That's what I
things are
do too. I
happening.
pull up my chart every time.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 14th. And then the next thing I see is the new moon of the 17th of July.
Yep. Yep.
Now, the new moon is occurring at 24 degrees 56 minutes of Cancer. So it's later in the sign of Cancer.
Hmm.
And the Sabian symbol for this one is fun. Now you're going to have to, the language of the Sabian symbols is older, right?
Yeah.
Earlier 20th century. It's sometimes stilted. So we'll try to put it into words that are more modern here. But it says a willful man is overshadowed by a descent of superior power. And the picture that I get is funny enough of Pentecost, right? Where the Holy
Really?
Spirit descending into man, into humanity,
Wow.
um, the Spirit of God, or the Spirit. So I'm not a particularly religious person at all, but I remember as a Lutheran growing up, it was Pentecost Sunday, and that was of course in May or something like that. But the whole idea of the Holy Spirit descending into humanity and or into the body. And that's what this makes me think of, this will that we have, this ego that we have, but getting something of a spiritual nudge, a spiritual download into us with this new moon that
Hmm.
then joins up with our imagination and creates with action a path to success.
You got all that from the Sabian symbol?
I did. But then
Holy
my mind just
moly.
goes crazy, right? It just starts going, "Oh, yes." And I make all these connections and things
You're
like that.
good. Wow.
So let me distill that down then. Your will plus your imagination plus action leads you to success. In whatever way it is that you're doing. It could be success in a relationship. It could be success in, moving the furniture in your home. It doesn't have to be the big things in life like getting a job or relocating or anything. It could be little things that you've been struggling through. Applying your will, being
Okay.
imaginative.
Okay, so this is me month after month after month listening to Sabian symbols and still not getting it. So he takes the degree
Mm-hmm.
in the sign
Mm-hmm.
and makes a sentence.
Yes. And
And
he is
how did
not the,
he develop this?
this was done through a channeling years
Oh, a
before.
channeling.
Yeah. Where a woman set out to channel what each degree of the zodiac meant.
Okay.
So these are channeled information pieces, which kind of leave it up to us, really, in a way, to sort of put it against the backdrop of everything that's happening and interpret. But if you take the basis of it, right, the basis of it is really just using your will and matching that with imagination to take action. And that leads us to success. It's really it's like a formula. The new moon this time is like a formula,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That one really throws me for a loop. When I think about the new moon in Cancer at 24 degrees,
Hmm.
I would look at the degrees and the numerology in the degree,
Hmm.
and I would look at Cancer and the meaning behind what does it mean to be Cancerian, and that's how I would develop the meaning along with it is opposite Pluto, it is sextile Uranus, it is trine Neptune, right? So the Sabian symbols just completely are a whole other
Yeah. So the opposition
machination.
to Pluto, think about this, right? The new moon is always about a new
Yep.
beginning with Cancer, which might be
Yep.
about how to nurture oneself to move beyond the hard encrusted
Sure.
old self, right? How to nurture something new and vital and living and to grow, right?
Yep.
Growing is a part of Cancer energy. And in its opposition to Pluto, which is a 5-degree separation, a 4-ish degree separation, we have the possibility for transformation
Oh, absolutely.
that comes from the things that have been let go of.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I keep
Mm-hmm.
looking at the wrong darn camera because that camera wouldn't work this morning again. So, if you see me looking off that way, it's because that's where my camera was. Turn it backwards, I'm not looking at you. So it's a very I think it goes along with it, right? We have to everything about being a human on this planet is about having the will to your will, which I always think of also as your ego strength, and matching that with the imagination. Like, if we never imagined that we could go to the moon, would we have ever gone to the moon? Right? We matched our will. It was a national will at that point in time, the national will, but it could work even with your individual will, with imagination. And the missing piece in most people's life is we have the will, we have the imagination, but we don't take the action.
Mm,
And here's where the action piece needs to come in so that we are then moving forward. And this is so freaking important because we're on a pivot point on the 17th. Because the very next day, the nodes shift out of
right.
Taurus and Scorpio into Aries and Libra.
Right.
Both are signs that are initiating energy, they're
Yes.
cardinal. So the
Yes.
nature becomes action oriented.
Right. Right.
Right? In the Taurus Scorpio, we've been upsetting the places where we were comfortable or where we were
Mm-hmm.
stuck or rutted,
Sure.
and looking at the baggage and moving towards simplicity. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're
Yeah. Mm.
boldly going because the North Node moves into the Aries part of your
Aries.
chart.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, very next day. Very
Very
next
next
day.
day. Yep.
So it makes perfect sense to me. And here's the other cool thing. The sun that day is in the gate 62 in your human design. That's the gate of the details, right? Not getting so caught up in the big picture that you fail to take those little steps. Like, the big picture needs to have a plan with
Mm.
steps that are going to get you to where you want to go,
Mm.
right? Like, we didn't get to the moon just because we imagined it and then we thought we'd start to build rockets or something. There was actually a plan
Mm.
that would take us to the moon. Same thing in your own life. What are the details that you need to see to in order to build the plan to get to where you want to go? And the moon is sitting in this at the gate 61, that whole week, by the way. And excuse me, it wasn't the sun at 62, it was the earth. Earth is at 62. Same thing, but to have grounded movement, we need to be at the 62, seeing to the details. Where the sun and the moon are at the 61, which sees the possibilities, the wonder
Mm.
and the awe of what if. It's the what if gate. What if I
Ooh.
could create this spectacular program? What if I could go out and get my dream job?
Oh, I like that. I like
Hmm.
that what if question. For a
Hmm.
moon. That's
Right?
good.
What if? And not the what if I fail? No, not
No,
that one. The
that's a different thing.
possibility, tapping into the possibilities of
Mm.
what could be. So to me, that this new moon in July this year is kind of spectacular.
Ooh, ooh,
Hmm.
ooh.
Yeah. And it has also light air energy. Again, it's only Ceres and the vertex of the chart that's in air. So, in a way, it relaxes the mind and allows us to go with the heart, to go with
Mm,
what's practical or what steps we can take to make, changes, but also the water element, the feel good, what feels good to do, what
mm.
feels, positive for us to be doing. Interesting day.
Yeah, interesting day. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. And then, of course, the 18th comes along and the nodes shift into Aries and Libra.
Yours and Libra.
Uh, North node Aries, South node Libra, and they will
Yeah,
be in that sign until January of 2025.
yeah.
So,
I think that's
approximately,
exciting. I mean, that to me is a whole show. I mean, those,
definitely could be.
yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, there's so much there to unpack.
Yeah.
And what are
Yeah.
your big expectations?
Well, my biggest expectation here is that it's going to bring us right into see what we're letting go of is the Libra part
Right.
while we are embracing more of the Aries part. So if we're embracing more of our personal identity,
Hmm.
that means we're also letting go of our codependence that we might have gotten into with others.
Hmm.
So that can be uncomfortable as it shifts the relationship factors that we're all in. And that relationship could be in business or in person, your personality or your personal, excuse me, life. So it would be a renegotiation, perhaps, of the agreements that we've made with people in our lives.
Hmm.
And to me, it's very activated. Remember, Mars moves, rules Aries. So it's movement to a new direction. So
Absolutely.
wherever the Aries Libra axis is in your chart is where you are embracing more of your personal identity. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be in relationships or that relationships are no longer important, but the nature of those relationships may indeed change as you evaluate whether or not they are supportive or is it unbalanced, is there a
Mm,
deficit between you and the other person that is not working.
mm,
So yeah, so that's just the personal aspect, but in the world, the greater world, this is the love and war axis.
mm. Oh, that's an interesting way to say it. I hadn't thought of it in that way, but right,
Yeah.
right. The love and war axis. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
not quite sure how that lands yet with me because it would seem to say then with the South Node in Libra that we're letting go of the love in order for the war, and I don't want that either. But would it be how we can blend
I don't
the
see it
feminine
that
and the
way.
masculine?
I
Tell me
don't
how
see
you
it
see it.
that way.
Tell me
I
how you see it.
Yeah, I guess the Sag rising is going to show here because I feel a lot more optimistic about it than that. um, I actually see it more as people rising into their own form of leadership. I know you talk about like personal identity. I see us all stepping into leadership that is in balance. And I was going to use my head said servitude, and it's not servitude, but there's more balance coming. We're releasing that codependency. We're finding and seeking balance, right?
Yep.
And And in the mundane world, I would say our legal system is going to shift.
You
I
know,
feel I
yep,
feel
yep.
a big shift is forthcoming. We are watching complete and total misuse of our legal system in many levels. Everything from me suing you because you used my name, blah blah blah, personally, but at a higher level, Supreme Courts and that kind of thing. Not We are not. It's a justice system that's out of whack, and I think that's going to come into balance. I think it's going to correct itself during this cycle.
That is definitely your Sagittarius rising coming through, or Sagittarius, whatever you said it was. But for real, in Libra, it rules the legal cases, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't rule the judicial system. That's more Sagittarian in nature, but it does rule the nature of the laws and how they're being played out. And I have been actually surprised by the Supreme Court's rulings, and not in a negative way either. I've been, when the court started moving more conservative, I was a little tweaked out, thinking that they were going to go ruling more for corporations and not so much for people. But surprisingly, they've been doing a pretty good job, with a few exceptions, right? There's things out there, but I think you're right. That is a possible expression of that energy in the bigger, wider world.
Mm-hmm.
How the nature of law itself is changing in the way it's applied. Libra applies the law. Sagittarius writes the laws.
Right.
So interesting way to look at that.
Yeah. I also think that probably, and again, you would see this geopolitically, I think leadership style, maybe uh, new lead, new leaders with bolder expression,
How
bolder.
about this? Younger, bolder
Younger, bolder.
leaders.
Yes, well said. Younger, bolder leadership. I mean, several countries are going through changing leaders. So I think that's going to be, I think it's going to play out. I think we're going to witness it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I don't like the idea of love war
Well,
axis rather.
when we think of war, we could be at war within ourselves, right? War
Right,
is
right.
technically speaking, is the absence of peace. So, where can we bring more peace to law in this example? Where can we bring more peace to our relationships by letting go of the past, perhaps?
Yep.
So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities there. But when we think of Aries too, it is the sign of that boldness that you speak of,
Boldness.
that we have to have the will, which
Yep.
we just spoke about in terms of the new moon the day before, the will to move forward in bold new ways,
Mm,
right?
mm.
Um,
I wonder. So a keyword that I think of around Aries is angst.
mm,
They have a thread of anxiety that they live with. They want their goal is to be courageous, right? And maybe we'll just all maybe it'll naturally fall into place that we all have that opportunity to face our own fear about being a leader. But there's that it comes with a threat of stress.
yes, but also Aries. If we look then at what is the gate that
Oh,
the in human design that the north and south nodes are at, it gives us a clue as to
okay.
what the entry into the sign is, and of course we already have the entry into those energy gates. Right, it happened
Oh,
already earlier
okay.
this week, and it's natural the way that works because of the way human design is arced against astrology. So we're working then with the energy of the gate 3,
Which is?
which innovation,
Oh,
inventiveness, with
oh,
a dash of innocence in there. Aries is also a sign of innocence. There's,
yes.
in that, I don't know how things are going to play out, but I'm going to take this step and see, right? If
Yep,
I fall off the cliff, oh well, I'll get back
yep,
up, dust myself off, and try a different thing,
sure.
different way. So there's this innovative piece. That's the north node that we need more of. We need more innovation. We need more.
Truly.
We need also to try things, not so
Yeah.
much just to talk about them, to actually do something new. And what we are releasing is the gate 50, which can be corruption and not corruption like we think of in politics or, corporations so much, but where we've misread the information.
Sure.
We've misread the code, right?
Sure.
Um, or in the translation of something, it didn't quite come across in the way that it was meant to. So we have to, do some cleanup in the code,
A
if you
corrupt
will.
file.
A corrupt file, exactly.
Yeah.
So we might have to, delete the file and then upload the file again, so that the
Yes.
code is not corrupt. But in that is also then responsibility, and the responsibility for our own self nurturing, our own disposition in terms of what are we bravely going forward into,
Yes.
right? Or not.
Yes. And that's another thing that I think about with Aries is like personal responsibility
Hmm.
or sometimes lack thereof.
Right? Yeah. But you're absolutely right. This is one that we could talk about forever.
It's a whole show. It's a 30-minute show for
Yeah.
sure.
And if you want, you can also look at it like this. About 18 and a half years ago, you were also experiencing Aries and Libra in
I'd
your
have to do the math on that.
we yeah, we'd have to go so round it up to 20. We were at the year 2003.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So what was
Oh,
going on in
holy
your life
Moses.
around that period of time? And what was going on in the world? And there was definitely war, right? That was the year that we decided to go
Yes.
into Iraq because they were the weapons of mass destruction that were never found, kind of
Right.
thing. Right. So
Right.
it is it's always worth looking backward, because then we can maybe not make the mistakes that we made at that point in time,
Right.
because we're hopefully evolving forward.
Yeah.
All right. And
Oh
believe
yeah. The
the
next rest of the month. Let's see. Oh, Sun in Cancer trine Neptune in Pisces. The 20th. Um,
yeah, but I think all of that pales into
yeah.
Venus moving retrograde on the 22nd.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Yep.
I
Venus
wanted to
retrograde
see
in
the
Leo.
time that happens. Venus retrogrades at 6:30 p.m. just before the sun moves into Leo, and those are, of
Leo.
course, West Coast times.
Yep.
So that's always interesting when you see a planet and that shifting direction at the same time that you have a shift in the signs that are available for energy. It puts a big spotlight on the Leo part of our charts
Yeah.
for the next several months. It'll be from July 22nd until September 3rd. And really, Venus retrograde is about revaluing everything: ourselves, our self worth, what we buy, what we choose to think of as what's important to us versus what's not so important to us. It is not a good time to buy big things because we don't see value clearly,
Yep.
right? If you're the seller of said big thing, that's a different story, because the buyers out there might see value that
Mm,
if Venus wasn't retrograde, they wouldn't see.
mm.
So it would be an interesting time economically as well.
Economically. Yeah. Yeah, that's what
Mhm.
I thought too.
Retrogrades are often times of reversals, going
Hmm.
backwards, as it were. Um,
And plus, we have three big outer planets retrograde. So there's a lot of retrograde energy. There's
a lot of that moving inward,
going
shifting,
in. Yeah.
uh-huh, picking up the stitches that you lost,
Yep.
in the seam.
That
Um,
was a very creative Leo way to say that.
I
Picking
have a
up
lot
the.
of planets in Leo.
Yeah.
um, so Venus in retrograde, though, is really a sure sign that it's not a great time to buy, to go big in money,
Mm,
because again, the need is to really check value first,
hmm.
right? I have lots of stories of people who bought homes or bought cars, the car of their dream, that turned out to be a lemon,
Mm.
right, during a Venus retrograde. So if you are in a position to do something like that, you want to check and recheck everything about what you're buying, even rechecking your own motivation. What is my motivation? Is this retail therapy, or is this something I truly need or want that is going
Mm.
to improve my life? but also looking at our relationships. Venus retrograde often brings back the past
Right.
lovers, past people that that you'd been in relationship with, the past boyfriends, girlfriends, what have you. Even
Mm-hmm.
if it's not them coming back into your life to be in relationship, the issues around that relationship can be coming back up. Check
Right.
the Leo part of your chart because that is where it's all going to play out the whole
Interesting.
time from 28 degrees Leo back to 12 degrees of Leo. So if
Mm.
you have planets between 12 and 28 degrees in Leo or any of the fixed signs, so either Aquarius, Scorpio, or Taurus, that Venus retrograde is probably going to come home to roost in some way.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. And then and end of the month, really, because here it's 9 o'clock already, my time, it's 11 your time. Mercury is moving into Virgo at the end of the month, maybe bringing some more structure, organization to our thoughts.
Right. What I found interesting about Mercury for the month of July was the fact that it changed signs it's in three different signs this month. I found that sort of unusual. I mean, I know that Mercury moves really quickly, but I was like, wow, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, bang.
Yeah, he's at the
So
fast part of his cycle.
yeah, so like
Yeah.
our thoughts, like I'm just imagining how they're going to feel as we move through, these three different signs.
Yeah, I was just thinking this because, Mercury came into a conjunction with the sun will be in a conjunction on the 30th, so on Friday. And that's the halfway point in the Mercury cycle. So Mercury is kind of at his speediest at this point in time, which means that we're heading toward the slower end of his cycle as we get closer to September when
Mm,
his next retrograde will begin. So we're
right.
halfway to the retrograde.
Yeah.
That should affect you on your birthday this year.
Stop it.
I know.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right. Any last things that you want to share? What's going on in Tam world? And
Well, there's always plenty to share, but honestly, honestly, I just want to take a minute to remind everybody about one of the like overarching energies for 2023. This is the
hmm
number 23. Built into the 23 is change. 2 plus 3 is 5. The number 23 itself is about courage. Remember that you have the courage to face the changes that are built into 2023. 2 plus 2 plus 3 is 7, which means the answers are within. Get silent, use nature, do your research. Those are 7 energies. Change was
yeah,
bound to happen this year. My friends, my family, were all like spinning with change. It's built into the year, but you have the courage to do it. So don't forget that. Like, go get your answers from within. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I want to answer a question really quick from Pam Zaruba. Somehow I missed it. She said, Venus in retro, not good for booking a 3-week Europe trip. Not now. Well, Venus, it doesn't retrograde until the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of in the shadow at this point. And without really taking a look at either you and your husband's chart, Pam, I can't really say for certain, but I would definitely book sooner rather than later this month and take advantage of the fact that Venus is not in retrograde right now. But it might also be a good time to go back to a dream that he said. You said it was on his bucket list, so your husband's bucket list. So use your type and strategy and your authority to make that decision, which means I don't know your human design, right? You're a projector, so you're waiting for the invitation, life inviting you in. And then I don't remember what your authority is, Pam. Sorry, but whatever that is, that's how you make your decisions. That's it. Thank you, Tam. We will be together again at the end of July, it looks like.
Yep.
The beginning of August is on a Tuesday. So we'll be together the 26th of July to give you
Yep.
an August update.
Awesome.
And I think then we might be able to kind of see where the Venus retrograde has landed us a bit, and also how the node shift has been impacting us. That'll be a fun sort of retrospective that we can take.
Retrospective. Good language.
I love it. I am a Gemini, right?
You are a Gemini. It does
Wordsmith.
show.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Thank you, Tam, for being here. It's always fun to do Astro Inklings with you. I will see you all on Friday for our regular weekend Astro Design update. Much love to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.